helped raise younger brother like he was my own son while mom struggled with addiction, but years later he told me he always resented me and planned to cut me off forever because he felt I stole his childhood freedom. My brother was 5 the first night I tucked him in at night, in my mom's place. He was small, finicky, couldn't sleep if somebody wasn't sitting on the side of the bed. I remember his little fingers grasping around my shirt, like if I moved up and went away, he'd be swallowed up by the night. Mom needed to be there, needed to kiss him goodnight, but she was in the bathroom with the door shut, and I knew better than to knock by then. I was 15. I wanted to be a kid too, but that wasn't my job anymore. Later that night I fabricated a tale on the spot about a boy who found a flashlight that contained a battery that never had to be replaced. I do not even recall where I came up with it, but he was listening to every word with wide eyes, and when finally his did close, I just sat there for a few extra minutes listening to him breathe. I recall being consciously aware of this for the very first time. I wasn't his older sister anymore. I was something different to him, something more, and it never stopped after that. I was waking him up each morning, preparing his cereal, double-checking his backpack. I would braid his hair sometimes, despite the fact that I was not very skilled at it, and he complained that it was unbalanced. Our mom, when she was clean, she was so gentle I could never compete with it. She'd sing while tying his laces, kiss his forehead like she was born doing it. But when the bad days came around, she'd lock into herself and the job of keeping his world afloat fell to me. Teachers started giving me the seriousness, treating me like I was his mother. They'd have me sign things off, call to inform me when he was sick. I was a child too, but the weight fell on me as a second skin. There were nights I'd crouch in the bathroom floor with my ear against the door, hearing our mom cry, feeling the bottles splashing on the floor, the gush of the faucet to drown out whatever she was doing. I hated her for it, but I couldn't help worrying about her either. And meanwhile, my brother just caught sight of the me that showed up, the one he could count on, the one who got him to brush his teeth, who packed him lunch, who went to school plays when mom couldn't. He never got to see the part of me that cried myself to sleep at night, wishing for one single day when I didn't have to keep it all inside. I lost so much and didn't even realize it. My friends no longer invited me out because I had an excuse each time. I didn't go to dances, didn't go to football games, didn't stay up late with study groups. If I wasn't at school, I was at home keeping him alive. At the time, it didn't even feel like a choice. It just felt like staying alive. He was in need of me, and in return, deep within, I needed him. Caring for him made me feel useful when everything else seemed to be collapsing in around me. I recall on one Christmas saving up babysitting money just so I could get him a Lego playset he had been wanting. It wasn't even that costly, but to me, it was enormous. I covered it in last year's old paper, and as he tore it open, the expression in his eyes, it was as near to joy as I came that year. Mom wasn't around that morning. She appeared later with a wonky smile and promises that next year would be fine. I didn't believe her. I just saw my brother building castles and spaceships with those little bricks, and I told myself, it was all worth it, all the sacrifices. But here's where I did not expect to go. Years later, after all of it, the late nights, the milestones I never lived as a teenager, the ways in which I put my dreams on hold to provide him with a normal childhood. He sat me down and told me he was resentful, told me he felt like I robbed him of his freedom, that because I was always on him, always directing, always parenting, he never got to just be a kid. To hear it broke something within me that I didn't even know was fragile. I thought I was saving him. He thought I was suffocating him. Even now, I repeat his words in my head day after day. He told me he had been planning to let me go forever. Not simply pull away a little bit, not simply need some space, cut me out completely. As if I were this shadow that followed him through his childhood, and he couldn't survive unless he eliminated me. Do you have any conception of what it is like to give all of yourself to a person, only to have them treat you like the enemy from the get-go? It is as if your entire past spools itself back out in front of you. All those nights I lied awake ensuring he was alright, all the times I prioritized him, it suddenly felt like none of it counted. The twist is, I did not want that position either. I did not want to be his mother. I wanted to be his sister. I wanted to bicker over stupid things, joke about films, sneak out with him maybe. But life did not grant me that. And then he is angry at me for being the thing that I never wanted to be. I can still hear the way his voice cracked when he said, "You stole my childhood from me." He said it as if I was this robber, that I was just like the wreckage our mom left us. I just sat there in silence, because what could I say? "You're welcome." Sorry? Neither of those sounded right. I did not take his childhood from him. I gave up mine to give him one. But in his mind, maybe my means of protection were just another means of prison, and maybe he will never be able to see otherwise. That night, after he'd left, I entered my room and gazed at the box of old photographs that I'd preserved. Pictures of him in Halloween costumes, birthday candles on cakes I had baked, small notes he had written to me saying things like, "Best sister ever." I clutched them in my hands, trying to make myself believe that I hadn't imagined it. That at one time, he really did love me for what I did. But those are the scribbles of a boy who did not realize the weight of my smile, the cost of my sacrifices. And maybe with time, he started piecing it together in another way, started recasting me in his mind as the reason he never got to be free. I don't know what hurts more, that he does, or that part of me does. The hardest part about what he said wasn't even the words themselves. It was that he just looked so calm while he said them. Like it wasn't some big dramatic moment, wasn't some fight, wasn't some rant of rage. It was planned, thought through, almost rehearsed. He sat across from me, hands folded like he'd already decided on it years and years ago, and was now only deigning to tell me about it. That peace, that aloofness, it told me that he had harbored this resentment for years, and I had no idea. I couldn't help but think of all those years when I believed we were building this unshakable bond. Every bedtime story, every school lunch that I made, every parent-teacher conference that I sat in on in Mom's place. I believed it was love that was keeping it going. Turns out, maybe it was just responsibility, at least his. I wanted to tell him everything he never got to see. Stuff like how I would cry in the shower because it was the only room where I could indulge in it without him seeing. Or how I would be holding $10 in the supermarket aisle, having a debate about whether to purchase him snacks he loved or actual dinner food. I hoped he'd know about the nights I'd sit at the kitchen table, half asleep with my eyes open, but still awake because he'd had a nightmare and couldn't sleep again unless I sat there beside him. But not a single word of any of that escaped my mouth. Rather, I just sat, swallowing all of an entire lifetime of things he never cared to hear. He also told me something that has stayed with me. He said, "You never let me make mistakes. You were always there telling me what to do, what not to do. I didn't get to figure out life on my own." And perhaps he was right. I was strict. I was cautious. I didn't let him wander too far, didn't let him skip homework, didn't let him hang out with kids I thought were trouble. At the time, it felt like I was shielding him, cocooning him away from the same kind of spirals Mom ended up in. But to him, maybe it just felt like shackles. That was a brutal wake-up call on my part. Because I do know what it's like to be completely without freedom, to be held captive by someone else's choices. That was all of my childhood, and the absolute last thing I ever wanted to do was pass that along to him. But maybe that's exactly what I did, not because I wanted to manipulate him, but because I was so scared of losing him. He was everything I had, and when a thing is everything you have, you hold on too tight. After he'd left that night, I stayed awake until morning. My chest hurt like I'd run, though I hadn't left my bed. I just kept staring at the ceiling, thinking back over all those years that separated us. How when he was 10 and his first school project rolled around, I'd stay up late assisting him in gluing cardboard pieces together. How when he fell off the monkey bars and broke his arm, I rode in the ambulance with him, while Mom didn't show up until hours later. How on his birthday, when Mom disappeared for 3 days, I scrounged enough money to buy a cake and we sat on the floor with plastic forks, giggling like it was the greatest day of all. Were they mine alone? Did he not remember them too? Did he file them under things my sister was responsible for, instead of things my sister gave to me? I couldn't help but wonder, was I a parent, or was I a prison guard? And the answer is, maybe I was a little bit both. There was one memory that kept haunting me, one that I hadn't thought about in years. He must have been 7. We were walking home from school, and he asked if I thought Mom would ever be okay. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to lie, wanted to tell him she would be fine, but the truth was too much. So I just told him, "I don't know, but I'll take care of you." And he smiled, as if that was enough, as if he believed me. That was the moment when I crossed a boundary with a promise that I never let myself break. But promises are slippery things. They are comfort to one, and chains for another. The days that followed our conversation, I could not shake the weight of it. I went on with the motions of my existence, but my heart was broken. I felt the need to call him, to apologize, to beg him not to cut me off from him. But I also knew begging would not change how he felt. You can't make someone believe your love the way you wanted them to understand it. You can only pray that they do. I thought about what it would be like to be cut off. Holidays with an empty chair where he'd sit. Birthdays with no phone call. Maybe even a wedding, at which I'd not be invited. The mere thought of it made my stomach roll, because as much as he'd tell me I took his childhood away from him, he was the one reason I survived mine. If it weren't for him, I have no idea who I would have become. There's this picture I have on my desk. It's of him sitting on my shoulders at the county fair. He's holding a ginormous stuffed bear we won in a contest, and his grin is so wide it doesn't quite fit on his face. I recall that day so vividly. How we shared a funnel cake, how he puked on the rides but laughed, how for an afternoon, it felt like we were normal. That picture has always been proof to me that I gave him good times, that I was not just a stand-in parent but his sister, his pal, his refuge. But because of what he said, even that memory is tainted. Did he ever look back on that day and remember the fun, Or would he only think about how I was the one holding his hand, stopping him from running away? I do not know, and maybe I never will. What I do know is that love does not always say what you wish it to. You can give everything you have to someone, and they still might walk away feeling like it wasn't enough. Or worse, like it was too much. That's the heartless part of it. You can give, you can protect, you can nurture, and still be the bad guy in their book. But if I had to do it over again, if I had to make all new choices, I don't know that I would have done it any differently, because the other, leaving him to do everything on his own, was never in my skill set. I'd rather be loathed for trying too much than hated for not even bothering. And maybe someday, when he's grown, when he has kids of his own, he will realize the impossible give and take I was attempting to keep going. Maybe he will realize that I did not attempt to steal his childhood, I just tried to keep it. Until then, I will maintain the two realities inside of me. I was his lifeline, and to him, I was his cage too. Those days felt like years after that conversation. All the little silences between us felt full now. He texted me occasionally, brief and clipped, like he was checking in because he had to. I'm good, yeah, busy, talk later. I'd reread those texts over and over, searching for warmth that wasn't there. I wished I could think I still had time to mend it, but every sentence sounded as if he were already halfway out the door. And in a sense, I couldn't fault him. If he's been holding on to that bitterness for years, then perhaps our connection had been unraveling gradually all this time, and I just happened to be the last one to catch on. I started running our whole childhood like a film on repeat. The scenes that had formerly felt like victories now felt uncertain. Like when I taught him to ride a bike, I used to hold on to that memory as proof I gave him something good. He was laughing, wobbling, and when I finally let go, he rode straight into a bush, scraped his knee, and cried. I remember hugging him, telling him he was brave, that he'd get better. That night, I actually slept in his room on the floor just to make sure he was all right. That, again, was considered one of our fondest memories. Now, I wondered if he felt the same way about it. Did he remember enjoying it, or was it simply remembering me hovering, ensuring he didn't ride too far without me? The problem with raising someone when you're a kid yourself is that you don't know what you're doing. You just do what seems right at the time, and you hope you're doing the right thing. I was afraid of him getting hurt because I'd already seen what real hurt had done to our mom. I'd seen the hollowness in her eyes, the way her body shook when she went too long without what she craved. I'd stand in the doorway, begging her to eat, to drink water, to get out of bed. And I'd look at my brother, little, wide-eyed, and I'd promise he'd never experience that same hollowness. I think maybe that's why I was so uptight. I wanted to protect him from everything, even the little things. Yet, perhaps by doing that, I deprived him of the chance to learn how to be independent. There was one memory that bothered me the most. He would have been about 16 then, tall enough to meet my eye line, old enough to want to be independent. He wanted to attend a party one night, and I said no. I would not even hear him out. I just said no. Too dangerous, too many people, too many unknowns. He stormed off, slammed his door, and did not talk to me for 2 days. I believed at the time I was doing the right thing, protecting him. But now, in retrospect, maybe that was one of those instances he filed away as proof I was suffocating him. And the worst part is, I didn't even let him try. I didn't give him space to prove he was competent to make good choices. I just shut the door on it. But it wasn't all rules and regulations. There were soft moments as well, the kind I thought he'd carry with him for the rest of his life. Like when we pulled all-nighters building blanket forts in the living room, or when I'd make Mickey Mouse pancakes just to see him laugh. The times I tried to give him a childhood even when ours wasn't complete. I thought those memories would even out the rest. But maybe they were smothered under the weight of rules. Maybe he doesn't even remember them. Or maybe he does, and they're wrapped up in the resentment he now carries. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if he ever talks about me to others. Like when his friends ask him about his family, does he say, "My sister raised me," or does he say, "My sister controlled me"? Does it sound like a little difference? Yet it's the difference between being his anchor and being his cage. And I don't know what I am anymore. The weirdest thing is, I don't regret what I did. I regret how he feels about it, but I don't regret stepping up. If I'd had a chance to do it all over again, to relive those years, I don't think I could have turned my back on him and left him to his misery. I couldn't have been that sister who would have said, "Not my problem," because he was my problem. He was my heart walking around outside my body. And if loving him too much cost me our relationship, then maybe that was the risk all along. But still, in the middle of the night, when the house is quiet, I catch myself wondering if I should have done it differently. If I should have let him make more mistakes, let him fall harder so he could learn to stand taller. I was trying to save him from the hurt, perhaps merely delaying it. Perhaps all those scraped knees, broken rules, and poor choices I sheltered him from only accumulated into this meltdown down the years. Maybe I wasn't saving him. Maybe I was just putting the hurt on hold. There's a memory that keeps popping up that seems the sum of it all. He must have been about 11. We were sitting on the porch steps that summer night, watching fireflies. He leaned on me and said, "When I grow up, I want to be just like you." I remember laughing, musing his hair, telling him he'd be better than me. That moment used to bring me so much comfort, proof that he saw me the way I wanted him to. But now I catch myself asking myself if it was a phase, something he outgrew as he got older, something he now looks back at bitterly. Did he ever mean it? Or was it just the way a child says thank you, before he got old enough to resent the cost of my love? The problem is, I don't know how to hold both sides of myself in balance. The one where I was his guardian, his haven, his not quite mother, and the one where I was his jailer, his thief, the freedom stealer. Both are true, both exist simultaneously, and depending on whose memory you ask, one cancels out the other. But in my heart, I know that both of them are true. I loved him the best way I could, and loving him that way, I also hurt him. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy of it all, that sometimes love isn't enough, or maybe it's too much. The last time we talked in person, he didn't shout, didn't argue. He just said he needed space, and I nodded like I understood. But the thing is, I didn't. I don't. I wanted to shake his shoulders, hold him, remind him of all the times I'd been there when no one else had been. But I knew it would only drive him away. So I just sat there, made myself be still, though inside I was coming apart at the seams. He hugged me when he was going, brief and stiff, as if it was an afterthought. I stood in the window afterwards, watching his car drive away, and I could have sworn it was like watching my very purpose in life drive off down the road. Being his anchor was what I had been for so long. Without that, I had no idea who I was supposed to be. Those days went by, and I started rummaging through boxes of our old stuff. Maybe I needed that kind of looking back at the past to comfort me. At the very least, it didn't seem like the worst thing in the world. I found his kindergarten artwork, stick figures of him and me holding hands beneath the skewed sun. I found the birthday cards in which he had written things such as, "Best sister ever," in large, sloppy letters. I even found a crumpled note he once slid under my door after we'd had a fight, where he'd scribbled, "Sorry, don't be mad." I sat there in the midst of all those memories on the floor, and I couldn't quit crying, because those moments of love, those gestures of tenderness, they were real. I didn't imagine them, but love can change shape with the passing of time. What once felt like gratitude can sour into resentment, and there is no going back sometimes. I find myself wondering about Mom sometimes too, how maybe she looks at me with the same resentment. Maybe she resents me for playing the role she was supposed to play. Maybe she feels like I took something from her too, even though she gave it up without a word. I never set out to take her place. I never wanted to be anybody's mother. I just wanted to keep us both afloat. But in the end, it feels like everybody blames me for having survived the way I have. And maybe that's just the cost of being the one who holds everything together. You don't get thanks, you get blame. The thing that I haunt myself with the most is what his life would have been like if I had done nothing. If I had picked myself first. If I had attended dances, been in clubs, had a typical teenage life while he sorted everything out for himself. Would he have been more resilient? Would he have become more independent without me hovering over him? Or would he have fallen through the cracks, lost to the same chaos that took Mom? There's no telling. And that's what kills me, because I'll never know if my love saved him or ruined him. The thing is, I miss him. I miss him leaning on me, calling me first when something went wrong. I miss hearing his day, the ordinary details. And now the silence is deafening. Every time my phone rings, I wish it's him. Every holiday, I half expect him to appear at the door, willing to forgive, willing to begin anew. But every time, the day winds up the same, me sitting in a silent house, looking at the door that never opens. I catch myself now and then wondering if he will come back when he is older, when life has mellowed him a bit, when he understands how hard it is to raise someone, to carry responsibility you never sought. Maybe when he has kids of his own, he'll look back and see me differently. Maybe he'll learn that love is not always what you think it will be, but it is love all the same. And maybe then, he'll call. Until then, all I can do is wait. But waiting is not holding on to the anger. That's the hardest thing I'm trying to learn. Because if I hold on to the bitterness, if I let it get inside me and poison me, then I'll lose more than him. I'll lose myself. I'm trying to sit with the pain, to let it exist without turning it into hate. His truth lives and mine lives too. They're both real, even if they aren't compatible. The last picture I put back in the box is the two of us at the beach. He's around 8 years old, up to his ankles in the water, beaming, outstretched arms to his sides as if he owned the world. I was always behind him, towel in hand, watching. That photo says it all about us. Him reaching out to the world, me watching behind him, holding him safe. And maybe that is the problem. Maybe he never did need the watch. Maybe he needed only the sea. As I closed the box, I whispered something I don't think I ever told him enough. I'm sorry. I was only trying to love you. Truthfully, everything I did, every time I got in the way, every sacrifice I made, it was all because I loved him. Flawed, messy, sometimes smothering, but love nonetheless. So if he never returns, If he actually does cuts me off for good, then at least I'll have the knowledge that I gave him everything I could. Even if it was not the kind he wanted, it was the only kind I knew how to give, and maybe that's enough. Or maybe it never will be. But in either case, it's the truth. And the quiet realization I've come to, the one which keeps me moored, is this: sometimes the people we save don't thank us. Sometimes they hate us for it. But it doesn't invalidate the love we shared. It doesn't invalidate the sleepless nights, the meals we cooked, the promises we kept. Love doesn't end just because it's not returned. It still exists, tucked inside us, shaping who we are. And maybe that's what I carry with me now. Not the rage, not the blame, just the proof that I loved ferociously, even when it cost me everything. That's where I'll leave it. With love, even if it's unrecognized. With hope, even if it's unanswered. With peace, even if it's broken.